Once upon a time, seasons later, the forest changed. The rains came late. Fruit withered on the branches. Animals moved away. Hunger returned to the humans like an old enemy. And with hunger came memory. They remembered the land they had abandoned. They remembered the gorilla who ruled it. They remembered that he had spared one of them. Some called that a sign. Others called it a mistake. Among the humans was a boy who had grown into a man. He had been a child when the hunter returned broken and silent. He had listened to the story every night by the fire. He did not hear fear in it. He heard a challenge. He believed Hong Kong could be beaten. Belief is dangerous when it grows faster than wisdom. So the young man went alone, carrying more than a spear. He carried traps, sharpened stone, and the confidence of someone who had never faced the forest's true weight. The forest felt him immediately. Leaves shifted, birds vanished. The ground seemed to tighten beneath his feet. Hong Kong was resting when the human entered his land again. He smelled the change first. This one did not carry respect. He carried intent. The great gorilla rose slowly, stepping into the open. Sunlight caught the scars across his chest. Old marks from battles the forest remembered, even if humans did not. The human froze. This was not the creature from stories. This was larger, closer, real. Hong Kong beat his chest once. The sound was not anger. It was warning. But the human did not listen. He threw his spear. It struck stone, not flesh. Hong Kong moved faster than the human thought possible. The ground shook as he closed the distance, not to kill, but to end the threat. The human fell. The traps snapped uselessly. The weapons scattered. Hong Kong stood over him, breathing slow and controlled, eyes locked onto the trembling figure below. The forest waited. This time, the human understood. Not with words, with instinct. He pressed his hands to the ground, lowered his eyes, made himself small. Submission. Hong Kong stepped back. He roared, not in triumph, but in command. Leave. The human ran and did not stop until the forest released him. When he returned to his people, he did not boast. He did not speak of victory. He spoke of weight, of presence, of a power that did not need to prove itself. From that day on, the humans changed the story. They no longer called Hong Kong a beast. They called him the one who guards the line. And the elders added a new ending to the tale. Once upon a time, humans learned that strength does not always belong to those who strike first. Sometimes it belongs to those who stand still and let the world remember who it truly belongs to. And still, the legend was not finished, because stories that guard boundaries must be tested. Years passed. Children became hunters. Hunters became elders. The forest remained. So did Hong Kong. He grew older, but not weaker. His movements slowed, yet his presence deepened. The trees he leaned against bent permanently. Paths formed where he walked. The forest no longer resisted him. It shaped itself around him. The humans noticed something else. No great predators crossed that land. No rival beasts claimed its heart. The forest was fierce, but balanced. Some began to believe Hong Kong was not just a guardian of territory, but a keeper of order. Then came the strangers. They arrived from beyond the hills, carrying sharper stone, louder voices, and no stories of the forest. They laughed where the locals whispered. They cut trees without asking. They hunted without watching the wind. They did not know the line. When warned, they scoffed. There is no guardian, they said. Only animals. The forest heard that. Hong Kong heard it. On the third night, the strangers' camp went quiet. No screams, no struggle. By morning, their fires were cold. Their weapons lay scattered. Deep marks scored the ground, wide, deliberate, undeniable. The locals did not approach. They already knew. That day, the elders gathered the children and told the story again, slowly, carefully, exactly as it had happened. Not to frighten them, to teach them. They ended the tale the same way they always would. Once upon a time, humans believed the world was something to conquer. Then they met those who reminded them. Some forces are older than pride, stronger than weapons, impatient enough to wait for respect. And deep in the forest, where the trees still lean inward and the ground carries the memory of heavy footsteps, Hong Kong remains. Not watching, not hunting, simply being. The line still stands. Those who feel it turn away. Those who don't are never remembered. And the forest keeps its silence. Long after the strangers vanished, the forest grew quiet again. Too quiet. The elders felt it first. A stillness that did not belong to peace, but to waiting. The birds returned, yet their songs felt cautious. The wind moved through the leaves as if listening for something else. Hong Kong had not been seen in many seasons. Some believed he had finally grown too old. Others feared something worse, that the forest no longer needed him. Then one dry year, the river shrank. Water pulled back from its banks. Fruit failed. Animals wandered closer to human camps, desperate and confused. Hunger crept in again, slow and familiar. The line Hong Kong guarded began to fade. A young child was the first to see him, at dawn. While the camp still slept, the child stood at the edge of the trees and stared into the green. There, half hidden by mist and shadow, stood the great gorilla, smaller than the story said, slower than memory remembered, but his eyes were the same, deep, steady, ancient. The child did not run. He bowed. Not because he was told to, but because something inside him understood. Hong Kong watched for a long moment. Then he turned and walked deeper into the forest, each step heavy, deliberate. The elders followed the child to the trees and saw the broken branches, the wide footprints, the unmistakable sign. The guardians still lived. That night, the elders made a decision they had never made before. They moved their camp farther away. They took less from the forest. They stopped cutting where the ground felt old. They chose restraint. Seasons passed. The rains returned. The river swelled again. Animals found their paths back. Balance, slowly, carefully, restored itself. Hong Kong was seen one last time, standing on a ridge at sunset, his shape outlined against the sky. He did not look at the humans. He did not need to. The forest had learned. So had they. And so the story ends the way all true stories do. Not with victory, but with understanding. Once upon a time, humans believed strength meant taking. Then they met something that taught them strength could also mean stopping. And in the places where the trees still lean inward and the ground feels heavy beneath your feet, people lower their voices. Because even now, they say the line remains. And some guardians do not need to be seen, only respected. Time moved on, the way it always does, quietly, without asking permission. The child who bowed grew into a hunter. The elders who remembered Hong Kong with their own eyes became stories themselves. New children were born who knew the legend only through firelight and whispers. And that is when legends are most dangerous. Because when a story is no longer witnessed, it is tested. One season, the forest shifted again. Not with hunger, not with drought, but with sound. Deep crashes echoed at night. Trees fell where none had fallen before. The ground shook in places that had always been still. Something was changing the land itself. The people feared the guardian had finally died. Without Hong Kong, the line would vanish. Without the line, the forest would be claimed by humans, by beasts, by chaos. A council was called, for the first time in generations. Once upon a time, before villages had names, and before humans believed the world belonged to them, there lived a gorilla of the forest called Hong Kong. He was not like the others. He was older, bigger, silent. Where other beasts fled from fire, Hong Kong watched it. Where other animals ran from humans, Hong Kong stood his ground. The forest bent around him. Trees bore scars from his hands. Rivers changed course where he drank. Birds fell silent when he moved. The humans spoke of him in whispers. They said he was the spirit of the mountain made flesh. They said he had fought leopards and lived. They said no spear had ever pierced his chest. One day, a hunter came alone. His name is forgotten now, but his courage is not. He was young, marked by scars, carrying only a stone spear and a firebrand. His people were starving. The forest had turned against them, and every path led through Hong Kong's land. The hunter entered the trees at dawn. The forest watched. Hong Kong sensed him before he was seen, not by smell, not by sound, by intent. Branches cracked as the great gorilla rose from the shadows. His chest was broad as stone. His eyes were dark, ancient, and calm. The hunter stopped. This was not prey. This was judgment. They stared at one another in silence. Then the ground shook. Hong Kong beat his chest once. The sound rolled through the forest like thunder. The hunter raised his spear. Fear screamed at him to run. Pride told him to stand. Hong Kong charged. The impact was not a fight. It was a storm. The hunter was thrown through the air, crashing into the dirt. His spear shattered. The firebrand rolled away, hissing in the mud. The gorilla loomed over him, breath heavy, hands capable of ending it instantly. But Hong Kong did not strike. He waited. The hunter stood again, shaking, bleeding, refusing to kneel. He lifted a broken spear shaft like it still mattered. That was when Hong Kong roared, not in rage, in warning. The sound tore through the trees, shaking leaves, loose from branches. It was the voice of the forest itself saying enough. The hunter understood. This was not a battle to be won. This was a boundary. He lowered his weapon. He stepped back. He turned away. Hong Kong watched until the human disappeared into the trees. Then the gorilla turned, calm once more, and vanished into the green. The forest breathed again. The humans never hunted that land again. They taught their children a story instead. They said once upon a time, a man challenged the heart of the forest and lived only because the forest chose mercy. And deep within the trees, where shadows are thick and the ground still trembles, Hong Kong walks on. Not as a monster, not as a god, but as the reminder that long before humans learned to fight the world, they had to learn when not to. The story did not end with mercy. Mercy is never the end of a legend.